the lost continent of Mu, also known as the Sun Empire, the place where humanity first emerged, also called the Garden of Eden. In this two-part series, you will uncover everything hidden about the Mu continent and the legends of sunken lands. In this video, we'll cover the main outlines of the theory, and in the second part, you'll delve into significant details and symbolism, gaining striking insights into the origins of religions. First, we'll summarize the key points of the Mu legend in 9 parts before moving on to the details. 1. According to the theory, at some point in world history, there was a large continent in the Pacific Ocean that covered an area now occupied only by water and small islands. 2. In ancient times, this continent had 3 names, one geological, one mythological, and one hieratic. Its geological name was the Western Lands, its mythological name was the Garden of Eden, and its hieratic name was the continent of Mu. 3. Contrary to popular belief, humanity did not first appear in the African regions, but on this continent, and the history of civilization is much older than we know. 4. All the civilizations of the world, such as ancient Egypt, India, the Mayans, and the Uyghurs, were originally colonies established by the inhabitants of Mu, and many of today's religious narratives and symbols actually originate from this continent. 5. Ancient religions and sacred texts were inspired by the religion of this continent. 6. According to the religion of this continent, the devil and hell are fabrications. Humans were created to undergo continuous reincarnation, evolving their souls and becoming gods. By reincarnating repeatedly and living different lives, they will gain experience and eventually merge with the singularity of the universe. Because God is in everyone and everything. In short, the religion of this continent is spiritualism, and many later movements, such as Sufism and the mystical religions of the Far East, continue to keep this teaching alive. 7. The story of Adam and Eve being expelled from Eden for eating the forbidden apple is very different from what the Abrahamic religions tell, and humanity did not come into this world sinful. Therefore, they will not be subjected to any test. The absolute purpose of human beings is to continue their spiritual evolution in each reincarnation, eventually uniting with God. Moreover, each person chooses their own destiny before coming into the world. In this way, the hardships they wish to experience will be lived, and each completed stage will allow the soul to evolve further. Every suffering, just like in the philosophy of asceticism, will make you more virtuous. 8. According to the theory, the people living on the continent of Mu and Atlantis possessed many mental abilities, such as telekinesis, astral projection, and remote healing. They were also technologically advanced, at least as much as us, and possibly even more. 9. The continent of Mu either met its end due to natural disasters or a great explosion caused by weapons like the atomic bomb, and it sank beneath the waters. This explosion caused the waters of the Pacific Ocean to overflow, creating the Great Flood of Noah. The survivors of this flood, while trying to rebuild civilization, did not forget the continent of Mu or its legends and incorporated them into their religions. This is why there are common myths, like those of Adam and Eve and Noah's flood, found in all nations. The reason is that all these legends stem from a single source. We have already shared a video about Noah's flood. If you want to learn more about how this catastrophe is portrayed in different mythologies, you can watch it. Now that we've summarized the main points of the theory, we can delve even deeper. The most significant findings related to this continent and its religion are the Nakal tablets, believed to date back 1,000 to 15,000 years, and the 4 books written by James Churchward, based on the translation of these tablets. According to these books, the continent of Mu sank approximately 15,000 years ago, with a population of 64 million people, and was destroyed by the explosion of underground gas chambers. The continent of Mu, believed to be twice the size of Antarctica and defined as the first place where humanity emerged, is also the first place where all religions, symbols, and legends were first seen. Every symbol, tablet, mythological belief, and record found in the world today essentially traces back to Mu. This includes the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki legends. The subject of Mu, presented by a British colonel named James Churchward, is based on the translations of hundreds of tablets he found in the Hindu Kush and Tibetan mountains, guided by the rishis he met in India. Although it may seem like a conspiracy theory, it is, in fact, a very serious subject. Since the question of whether the legend has scientific validity will be addressed in the second part, we will focus here on presenting the content of the theory without any criticism. Whether or not this continent actually existed, we aim to show how seriously the legends about its existence have influenced esotericism and occultism. James Churchward spent nearly 50 years researching the continent of Mu and collected examples from all over the world. During these studies, he obtained 168 documents and clay tablets, bringing the subject of Mu to the forefront. In addition to the tablets written in the Nagamaya language, the findings of Augustus Laplagme, and the more than 2,600 tablets written in Nagamaya found in Mexico by the mineralogist and archaeologist Dr. William Nevin also support Churchward's theory. Some ancient sources that support the existence of the continent of Mu include the Troano manuscripts, the Easter Island tablets, Hindu and Maya records, the Lhasa records from Tibet, and the Codex Cortesianus, among other examples. According to the tablets, the continent of Mu spans 8,000 kilometers from north to south and 3,000 kilometers from east to west. It consists of 3 landmasses and is surrounded by a series of islands such as Indonesia, Polynesia, Juan Fernandez, and Easter Island, where evidence related to Mu has also been found. Specifically, the tunnels, temples, and statues discovered have symbols believed to be related to Mu, as these symbols match those found on the tablets. The idea that empires such as Egypt, India, the Mayans, and the Aztecs were extensions and colonies of Mu also intrigued Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who conducted deep research into the origins of the Turks. As a small note for those who may not know, Ataturk was a very important leader for the Turkish people and Turkey. He played a crucial role in Turkey's War of Independence and implemented many reforms that advanced civilization in Turkey and humanity, particularly in the realm of women's rights. In the 1930s, he sent a diplomat to Mexico to investigate this topic further and brought the 4 books written by Churchward to Turkey, where they were translated by a 60-person committee. Ataturk, through his diplomat, sought to establish connections between Turkish and other ancient languages, such as Maya. He noticed that many of the words translated from the Mu tablets were similar to Turkish. For many years, Ataturk closely followed studies on Mu. In fact, the theory interested him so much that he invited James Churchward to Turkey to meet him in person. However, Churchward had to decline the invitation due to his advanced age. The essence of the Mu religion was based on the belief in the oneness of God, the immortality of the soul, and the continuous rebirth for spiritual development. In other words, it was a precursor to current beliefs in karma and reincarnation. As it is considered the oldest known religion, it is not surprising that other religions have drawn from it. Indeed, if all present nations and civilizations were once extensions of this empire, it means that their cultures and traditions also originated here and have evolved over time. The Mu continent religion symbolized God with the sun, which is the symbol of life. They saw the sun as both easy to remember and the most suitable symbol to attribute to God. They gave the sun the name Ra, and Mu continent was called the Sun Empire. Ra was later used with the same meaning in Egyptian and Mayan languages. As an example, we can point to the Egyptian sun god Ra. Additionally, there is a 4-volume book series called Ra Information used by spiritualists. These books cover hypnosis and past life regressions. Essentially, the book deals with how a group of people performing regression sessions communicates with higher dimensional entities in the universe and learns truths that are unknown to us through these spirit summoning sessions. Just like in the Ra Information from the ancient Egyptian god, there are also numerous spiritualist books, such as the Initiate's Plan, which claim that the true existence of Atlantis and religions essentially come from the star Sirius. According to both the tablets and spiritualist sources, the people of the Mu civilization possessed many mental abilities such as astral travel, telekinesis, and telepathy. They were also technologically advanced. The idea that such an advanced civilization could have developed on Earth thousands of years ago suggests that the people who established the Mu civilization came from the star Sirius, meaning from another planet, and might have created Homo sapiens, that is, us. This is known as the ancient astronaut theory. Although Semitic sources have given names like fallen angels to beings coming from Sirius, according to the belief in the evolution of the soul, these beings are simply our ancestors who have reached a more advanced spiritual level than ours. We have already covered such topics in our mythology series. You can watch the video I prepared about fallen angels. It is interesting that in the early 20th century, both the Mu theory and spiritualism experienced a rise, which provides us with two perspectives. First, the Mu theory attracted so much interest and changed religious perception that people began to gravitate towards spiritualism, aiming to return to the world's first religion, resulting in great popularity for this belief. Indeed, in the last century, spiritualism has gained a significant following, and examples of spiritualism are shown in almost every movie and TV show. Secondly, some groups seeking to promote spiritualist teachings, such as certain families like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, have used theories like Mu and Atlantis to support their mission of creating a new world order, as the symbolism and philosophy of Mu align completely with the Freemasons' vision of a new world order. The concept of a single world order comes from the idea that, according to the Mu theory, the entire world was governed by a single continent and everyone shared the same religion. Although the Mu Empire was made up of 3 landmasses, the entire world was under the rule of a single continent. The ruler of the Mu Empire also had to be the wisest living priest, meaning he could be considered both pope and king. In the sources, this person is called Ramu, meaning son of the sun. Ramu acted as the representative of God on earth and was chosen by the people. It is notable that the role of representing God was reflected in Egypt, where the pharaohs declared themselves as gods instead of mere messengers of God. Since in the second part, we will discuss in detail the concept of Ramu, the Mu cosmic diagram, the royal coat of arms, and the flag of Mu, as well as explanations of symbols such as triangle, square, circle, swastika, and many others, we will not delve into them here. In the continent of Mu, scientific and religious affairs were managed by a group known as the Na-Kalis, and the found tablets are also referred to as Nakal tablets. The Nakalas were individuals with extensive knowledge in both religious and scientific fields. They can be thought of as similar to the group that provided initiatory training and introduced the idea of Atlantis to Plato. The legends of Atlantis and Lemuria were passed down through oral traditions by various orders, and all essentially pointed to the same belief. Plato spoke of an empire sunk behind the Pillars of Hercules, which had vanished 8,500 years before his time. Since Plato lived about 2,500 years ago, the destruction and flood he described would have occurred around 11,000 years ago, and similarly, the destruction of Mu is also dated to this period. This raises the question of whether Mu and Atlantis were different empires existing at the same time, or if they referred to the same region, as Plato referred to this continent as Atlantis. During the era of Mu, there were 4 different races living in the country, and they believed they had come to this world from another homeland. This homeland was said to be Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. We also mentioned that the people of Mu had telepathic abilities far more advanced than ours. In other words, the people of Mu exhibited some miraculous abilities similar to what we would now consider those of a seer or prophet. According to the Torah, they had angelic knowledge and used it through the power of thought. In many flood myths across different societies, such as in the Torah and the Book of Enoch, it is said that the flood was sent because humans acquired angelic knowledge. To support this theory, spiritualist groups refer to the principle of quantum entanglement. According to the principle of entanglement, a particle in the universe can be connected with another particle. However, this is a very rare phenomenon. Spiritualists, on the other hand, believe that every particle in the universe is in communication with every other particle. In other words, everything is entangled and unified. So a person should be able to move objects with their mind, much like they would lift a glass with their hand, and even heal people from a distance. You might already know this, or could learn it from books like The Secret or The Key. Over the last century, this concept has been so well marketed that unfortunately, when people hear quantum, they often only think of praying and receiving a response. Moreover, this belief is not at all foreign in Islamic lands. In Islam, Sufism and the general folk philosophies we know are essentially Islamic versions of spiritualism. Many Islamic scholars and wise figures such as Rumi, Ibn Arabi, Hallaj Mansur, Imam Rabbani, and Abdul-Dir Gilani have integrated the belief in karma and spiritualist philosophy into Islam, creating a movement that closely resembles the religion of the Mu civilization. The evolutionary stage towards union with God on the continent of Mu, which it describes as a state of perfection, can be compared to the Sufi concept of fenafiyya, which means to dissolve in the existence of God, to merge, or to dedicate oneself completely. In the Far East, this is akin to nirvana, and in Semitic religions, to paradise. Sources supporting the Mu theory come from all over the world, which can be quite confusing. The presence of similar beliefs, even in distant lands such as the Western Territories and among white-skinned teachers coming from the West, and the occurrence of these beliefs in the American continent suggests that groups might have reached the American continent much earlier, or that the indigenous people of America were intentionally placed there. In the indigenous beliefs of the American continent, there is also mention of white-skinned teachers coming from the sky. The concept of the white-skinned race has been entrenched in many cultures. It was believed that those coming from Sirius, or those living on the Mu continent, had white skin, leading to the development of the Aryan race theory, which was associated with this human profile. Consequently, non-white-skinned people began to be regarded as inferior races, enslaved and excluded. In response to this, you can mention Judaism, which emerged with the argument of we are also sacred, even the most sacred. And also mention Hitler, who, in his quest to achieve the true Aryan race, committed genocide against the Jews. Sacred texts mention the existence of a white-skinned race called the Nephilim, born from the sexual union between angels and humans who performed miracles. This likely symbolizes the relationship between those coming from Sirius and humans. We have already discussed other sources outlining the main features of the Mu continent. These sources are now found in places such as the National Museum of Mexico, the British Museum, and the National Museum of Madrid. Additionally, the inscriptions at the Uxmal Temple in Yucatan, Mexico, which are said to have been built in memory of the sunken continent of Mu, significantly strengthen the theory. According to the claim, the inscriptions state that it was built in memory of the lost Western civilization from which we come. Based on this logic, many tribes built temples, with pyramids being the most common. As is known, pyramid construction is not exclusive to Egypt. Civilizations around the world have built pyramids, as the concept is the same, a symbol of perfect spiritual development that narrows from the base to the peak. However, this topic has also been misused and tainted by conspiracy theorists. For example, many structures claimed to be pyramids, such as the so-called White Pyramid, are actually tumuli, ziggurats, or mounds, due to authors like Erich von Daniken calling any protrusion they saw a pyramid without any basis. Such details have been overlooked or not taken seriously. Although we are dealing with a legend here, it is beneficial to accurately cite the sources. Churchward spent nearly 50 years traveling around the world to gather sources. Among the places he visited were the Caroline Islands, all the islands of the South Pacific, Central Asia, Egypt and Siberia, Australia, Polynesia, the United States, and Central America. Churchward collected many archaeological finds and other records that supported his theory in these regions and published them in his 4 books. These books contain many details ranging from mythologies and shared legends to geological findings related to the continent of Mu, translations of tablets, and explanations of symbolism. The most striking point here is that no matter where you go, you can find stories almost identical to those of Adam and Eve, but with different names and similar narratives. The fact that the same stories and rituals are transmitted in the same way across different cultures reinforces the idea that these stories come from a single source. In the second video, I will present this information in a possibly more systematic way than anyone else. I believe we have provided enough information for now about the continent of Mu and sunken continent legends like Atlantis. So let's move on to the second part.